Welcome to Vidya Vahini, an educational program specially concentrating on 10th class students, sponsored by our Honorable District Education Officer in collaboration with ASEAN Cable Network. So far we have covered 4 units. The next unit is social evils. Social evils. I think you have understood what social evils are or social issues are. Social issues are like untouchability, child marriages, child labor, etc. Before going to a reading, that is the storied house part 1, let us have a look on the following lines. These are the lines are extracted from the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear, written by Rabindranath Tagore, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Into that heaven of freedom, my father led my country awake. So here are the lines in which the Tagore wants to express that there should be no division among the people in the name of casteism, in the name of religionism, in the name of regionalism, in the name of several other aspects like creed, racial discrimination, ethnicity discrimination, like this. So there should not be no discrimination among the people in terms of all these things. And my father stands for the God. He urges the God, let my country awake, make my country in that manner, or take my country to that place where the world has not been broken up into fragments. Fragments means here the divisions. Divisions in the name of, I have already told you, divisions in the name of casteism, religionism, regionalism. Okay, by narrow domestic walls. They are the domestic walls. They are the social barriers which separate from person to person. So, where the world is not divided into different parts in the name of casteism, regionalism, or etc. into that heaven of freedom. That kind of place is called heaven of freedom. So, my father, oh God, take my people to that place or make my people in that manner. This is the meaning of the lines. Okay, let us know the questions. What do the above lines talk about? The above lines talk about the unity among the people without having any place to racial discrimination, casteism, religionism, etc. What does the expression the narrow domestic walls mean? Narrow domestic walls mean that the social barriers which separate person to person are called narrow domestic walls. I have already told you the narrow domestic walls means the separating elements like casteism, religionism, racialism. Okay. Next, we have the same sort of social issue centralized in the following story, that is the storied house by Vaman Govind Howal. Let us know about the author. Vaman Govind Howal, born in 1938, is a well-known Marathi writer for his concern for Dalits, who are the victims of social injustice. He is known for his rustic style, crisp dialogues, and tongue-in-cheek humor that often startles the readers. Elcote 1982 and Varsadar 1986 are his collections of short stories. Okay, he is known for his rustic style. That means the spoken style in rural area is called rustic style. Crisp dialogues, well-defined dialogues with clarity. tongue-in-cheek humor, humor that is made suddenly, abruptly, in a well manner, tongue-in-cheek manner. People can't stop busting out with laughter. Okay, it's all about Vaman Govind Hoval. Now, the characters that are there in the storied house. Okay, the storied house is mainly based on the untouchable class who wants to aspire of building the two-storied house. That means ground floor and first floor, two-storied house. So the untouchable class is always downtrodden by the upper caste people. That is the main theme of the story. Bhayaji, in this story we have characters like Bhayaji, the main character. At the end, he worked as a supervisor. Before that, he was a coolie laborer at dockyard in Bombay, a victim of social injustice. The prime character or main character of the story is Bhayaji. Bujaba Patil, the known rascal of the village. He is arrogant, somewhat of upper caste. Kondiba Patil, the only owner of the only two-storied building of the village. And some more characters are there. Apart from that, we have sons, daughters and mother of Bhayaji, etc. These are the main characters in which we find the gist of the story. What is the story about? Let us know. The story is basically about a father who wants to build a new storied house for his family. However, his untouchable class serves as a problem. The main issue that is portrayed in the story, short story, is that many Indians are treated badly and are living in a very bad condition due to being an untouchable, the lower class of the caste system. Bhayaji is an untouchable and he has to work hard for the past 35 years in order to collect money to build this new house. However, the untouchables are looked down by the upper class. There were bad words about Bhayaji when he decided to build a house as big as those from the upper caste. The upper caste people eventually burned down Bhayaji's new home since his social class doesn't allow him to do so. And the upper caste people couldn't stand someone from a lower caste having a house similar to theirs. Bhayaji was also burnt completely in the fire mischief and died, expressing his last wish to his eldest son of building the storied house again. The sons of Bhayaji start the regular two-storied building, not the concealed one at the end. This is the gist of the story, in which we came across the mischief that took place with Bhayaji. Bhayaji, who worked for 35 years at the dockyard in Bombay, whatever he earned from his lifetime earnings, he saved around 2,500 rupees, out of which he wanted to build a new storied house. But the caste that he belongs to is like untouchable class. The people who are from upper class couldn't digest of building the storied house. Bujaba Patil and Kondiba Patil, those were mischievous and malicious, and they wanted not to allow Bhayaji to construct the storied house. The dialogues went between them, Bujaba and Bhayaji. After that, he made a plan. He wanted to construct the two-storied building that should not look like a two-storied building, but from inside a regular three-portion building. It's a building with a story one, that means with first floor. So they thought a plan, Bujaba Patil and Kondiba, and they burned the house to ashes. At the end, the burnt also received by Bayaji and died there itself, expressing his wish to his eldest son that he wanted to build this new storied house again where it was burnt. Okay, so taking the call from his father, the eldest son along with his brothers took the work and started digging where the house was burnt. And this time they wanted to construct the house, not the storied house, not the concealed one. It's an open, regular, two-storied house. That means the angry out of which they want to show, that's why they have to build the house, two-storied one. At the end,
without fearing of anyone. Right.
Glossary. Okay. God damn it.
Welcome.
Momentum, impetus, gained, movement. Clambered, climbed. Jostling, pushing, reluctantly, unwillingly. Truant child, noun phrase, a child, a student who stays away from school without leave or permission. Lurch, sudden movement. Helter-skelter, it's an adverb in disorderly haste. Heaved, uttered. Grunted, made a low rough sound expressing disagreement, boredom or irritation. Dockyard, place where ships are built and repaired. Sturdy, strong and solid, vigorous. Mahar, it's a Dalit community in Maharashtra. Their main occupations are wall mending, sweeping or agricultural laborer. Sundry, various, several. Nonplussed, so confused that one does not know what to say or do. Hostility, enmity, ill will. Mumbled, said indistinctly. Pleasantries, jocular or humorous remarks. Scampered, ran quickly. Let us know the story by reading it out line by line. Storied House Part 1. There was something really wrong with the state transport bus. It had come up the winding road in the mountain as if with a lifetime effort. The road was now downhill, and yet the bus moved as slowly as a sick man walking with the help of another. It reached the plain where the dispensary building was situated and stood still like an obstinate bull. Now the destination was hardly a mile or two away, but the driver was sore and the conductor had no option to be silent. When they realized that the bus wouldn't move any faster A couple of passengers exclaimed, God damn it for a bloody nuisance. So, the first and second paragraph, it's the first paragraph in which the author portrays the deplorable condition of the state transport bus. So, it has got some problem, and it had come up with a winding road in the mountain, but the movement it made with a lifetime effort, the road was now downhill, and at the downhill also, at the bus moved as slowly as a sick man walking with the help of another. See, here in this paragraph we find the similes, the indirect comparison between two different objects. The simile is nothing but indirect comparison between two different objects, in which we use as, conjunctions like as and like. Both the things are compared. Now the bus is compared with different objects, in which we find at the though it is downhill, the bus moved as slowly as a sick man walking with the help of another. Here the bus is compared with sick man who walks with the help of some other, and here is also the comparison of the movement of the bus is compared with a sick man. It reached the plain where the dispensary building was situated. Ultimately, it reached the plain where the dispensary building was situated. Dispensary building, here it means the hospital where the medicine and the treatment are given. Where the medicine and treatment are given is called dispensary building. So it reached the dispensary building at the plain. There it stood still like an obstinate bull. The bus again compared with the obstinate bull, stubborn bull. Stubborn bull. Obstinate bull means here it doesn't want to move any longer, any further. So the bus is also stood like in the same manner of the bull. When bull doesn't want to move further, the bus also is compared in the same manner, it doesn't want to move any further. Right, some push is needed externally. Now the destination was hardly a mile or two away. A mile or two away. So destination, that means the village from that place is a mile or two away. But the driver was very angry, and the conductor had no option and to be silent. When they realized that the bus wouldn't move any faster, so all of them realized the bus wouldn't move any faster, a couple of passengers exclaimed, showing their dissatisfaction, God damn it for a bloody nuisance. And the second paragraph also expresses the movement of the bus. The conductor asked the passengers to get down, and they all put their strength together to push the bus. Having gained this initial momentum, the bus started. Passengers clambered up, jostling one another. The conductor rang the bell, and the bus gradually took on speed. It entered at the village reluctantly, like a truant child being dragged to school. As it wound its way through the cows on the outskirts, it groaned and croaked like a hen about to lay eggs, and stopped with a bang in front of Bujaba Patil's residence. As it halted, it gave big lurch, sending the passengers helter-skelter, churned like water in a pitcher when the carriage stumbles. So, In the second passage, the conductor asked the passengers to get down, and they all put their strength together to push the bus. In the second passage, it stopped itself in front of the dispensary building, and there was no option left, pushing only. So the conductor asked all the passengers to get down and push the bus forward. So they pushed, and it got initial momentum, initial speed. It gained this initial momentum. The bus started. Passengers climbed up, entered the bus, jostling, pushing one another. The conductor rang the bell, and the bus gradually took on speed. It entered the village reluctantly, like a truant child being dragged to school. Here is one another simile used by the author. So, truant child, one who wants to leave the school without any permission, one who wants to stay away from the school without permission. That phrase that gives the meaning, leaving the school without permission. So it unwillingly, it entered the village unwillingly, like a truant child when he is being dragged to school by somebody else. Go to school. When somebody says to him, go to school, then unwillingly the boy at that time, how he entered the school. So in the same manner, the bus was pushed forward and it entered the village unwillingly. So it wound its way through the cows on the outskirts. It wound its way. There were several cows through which the bus had to move. So it moved on the outskirts. It groaned and croaked like a hen about to lay eggs. Here, the movement of the bus, the sound it made expressed in a simile, comparing that sound with the sound that usually that is made by the hen when it is about to lay eggs. So the sound is compared with the sounds that are made by hens when they are about to lay eggs. And it stopped with a bang in front of Bujaba Patil's residence. So finally it reached the village, and it banged, it made a big sound when it stopped itself. Stopped itself in front of Bujaba Patil's residence. As it halted, it gave a big lurch, sending the passengers helter-skelter, churned like water in a pitcher when the carrier stumbles. Here also, the simile is used in the similar fashion, how he used all through the two passages. It halted in front of Bujaba Patil's house, giving a big lurch, big sound, big shoe, it a big shake. All the passengers became what? Helter-skelter, moving hither and thither. Suddenly, churned like water, the water that is churned in a vessel, pitcher means here vessel, in a vessel when carrier stumbles. The carrier which takes the water in a pitch, when suddenly the carrier stops, the water in itself churned. So in the similar fashion, the passengers also became helter-skelter while getting down from the bus. So this is all about the bus, how it went through the downhill and it went on the outskirts of the village, how finally it reached the village, and the similes are used elaboratively across these two passages. So when it reached the village, when it stopped in front of the Bujaba Patil's house, the conductor asked the passengers to get down, and they all put their strength together to push the bus. Oh. All the passengers got down. However, the coolie put his hand on a huge wooden box and shouted, "Whose box is this?" Bhayaji, who was brushing away the dust from his body, answered, "Oh, it's mine. Please lower it down." All the passengers got down from the bus. The coolie who was standing at the bus put his hand on a huge wooden box and shouted, "Whose box is this?" He asked somebody else, it may be Bayaji. "Whose box is this?" Bayaji replied. Bayaji was brushing away the dust which was on his body. Answered him that, "It's mine." He answered, "It's mine. Please lower it down." That means he was about to keep that box, wooden box, on his head. Asked Bayaji, "Lower it down. Keep it on the floor." The coolie heaved and granted. As he lowered the box, which Bayaji caught with ease, Bayaji had packed his entire household goods in this box. There was no longer any reason to hang around in Bombay. He had worked honestly for the past 35 years in the dockyard and had retired from service 2 months before. Not that he had held an important position. He had merely got an extension for 2 years. During that period, he had become a supervisor. Otherwise, his entire life had been spent lifting heavy loads. He had worked very hard whenever he could, day and night. Coolie heaved and grunted as he lowered the box, which Bayaji caught with ease. So the coolie heaved, showing his expression a sigh, dissatisfaction, and grunted, made a low noise with angry as he lowered the box. And then when he lowered the box, he lifted or caught the box with ease. Bayaji had packed his entire household goods in this box. So there was no reason to stay in Bombay, now called Mumbai. He had worked honestly for the past 35 years at the dockyard. Dockyard means where the ships are built and repaired. Is called a dockyard. The dockyard in Mumbai. He worked for 35 years honestly, and he got extension in service for 2 years. In the extended period, he got promotion as supervisor, or else he would have worked as a coolie lifting the heavy goods. Okay.
Nursery and Garden, Angoli Road, Adilabad. My cell number 9848 717 9866 517 363. Harinavi Exclusive Nursery and Garden. మా ప్రత్యేకతలు ల్యాండ్స్కేపింగ్ డిజైనింగ్, గార్డెన్ డెవలప్మెంట్, గార్డెన్ మెయింటెనెన్స్, రెడీమేడ్ ల్యాండ్ బెడ్స్, అన్ని రకాల పూల మొక్కలు, ఇండోర్ అండ్ ఫారెస్ట్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు ఫ్రూట్స్ ప్లాంట్స్ లభించును. అంతేకాకుండా సీజన్ సీడింగ్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు హార్టికల్చర్ సర్వీసెస్ లభించును. మా వద్ద ఆర్గానిక్ ఫెర్టిలైజర్ లభించును. రైతు సోదరులకు పండ్ల మొక్కలు లభించును మరియు హోల్సేల్ ధరలకే ఇవ్వబడును. మరిన్ని వివరాలకు సంప్రదించండి హరియాలి నర్సరీ అండ్ గార్డెన్, అంకోలి రోడ్, ఆదిలాబాద్. మా సెల్ నంబర్ 9848999717 9866517363. ఎక్స్క్లూసివ్ నర్సరీ అండ్ గార్డెన్. మా ప్రత్యేకతలు ల్యాండ్స్కేపింగ్ డిజైనింగ్, గార్డెన్ డెవలప్మెంట్, గార్డెన్ మెయింటెనెన్స్, రెడీమేడ్ ల్యాండ్ బెడ్స్, అన్ని రకాల పూల మొక్కలు, ఇండోర్ అండ్ ఫారెస్ట్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు ఫ్రూట్స్ ప్లాంట్స్ లభించును. అంతేకాకుండా సీజన్ సీడింగ్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు హార్టికల్చర్ సర్వీసెస్ లభించును. మా వద్ద ఆర్గానిక్ ఫెర్టిలైజర్ లభించును. రైతు సోదరులకు పండ్ల మొక్కలు లభించును మరియు హోల్సేల్ ధరలకే ఇవ్వబడును. మరిన్ని వివరాలకు సంప్రదించండి హరియాలి నర్సరీ అండ్ గార్డెన్, అంకోలి రోడ్, ఆదిలాబాద్. మా సెల్ నంబర్ 9848999717 9866517363. ఎక్స్క్లూసివ్ నర్సరీ అండ్ గార్డెన్. మా ప్రత్యేకతలు ల్యాండ్స్కేపింగ్ డిజైనింగ్, గార్డెన్ డెవలప్మెంట్, గార్డెన్ మెయింటెనెన్స్, రెడీమేడ్ ల్యాండ్ బెడ్స్, అన్ని రకాల పూల మొక్కలు, ఇండోర్ అండ్ ఫారెస్ట్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు ఫ్రూట్స్ ప్లాంట్స్ లభించును. అంతేకాకుండా సీజన్ సీడింగ్ ప్లాంట్స్ మరియు హార్టికల్చర్ సర్వీసెస్ లభించును. మా వద్ద ఆర్గానిక్ ఫెర్టిలైజర్ లభించును. రైతు సోదరులకు పండ్ల మొక్కలు లభించును మరియు హోల్సేల్ ధరలకే ఇవ్వబడును. మరిన్ని వివరాలకు సంప్రదించండి హరియాలి నర్సరీ అండ్ గార్డెన్, అంకోలి రోడ్, ఆదిలాబాద్. మా సెల్ నంబర్ 9848999717 9866517363.
Okay, welcome back. Bayaji had crossed 60 but was in sound health. He had a sturdy frame right from birth, and hard work had given a well-formed shape to his strong body. He paid 15 paise to the coolie, put the box in which he had thrown pots and pans and sundry other things on his own head and began to walk in the direction of his house. As he reached Kadam's house, he saw Buddhaba coming towards him. Buddhaba was a well-known rascal of the village. Bayaji balanced the burden on his head. Straightening his neck, he said, "Greetings to you, sir. How are things with you?" So Bayaji gave 15 paise to the coolie. Patil was the known rascal of the village, and he balanced the burden on his head, and straightening his neck, he expressed his greetings to Bujaba, saying, "Greetings to you, sir. How are things with you?" These were the customary words they had to express with the upper caste people. So Bayaji was a Mahar by caste, and according to age-old custom, he should have greeted Bujaba with, "My humble salutations to you, sir, who are my father and mother." So when Bayaji merely said, "Greetings," Bujaba became furious and said, "Do you think you can become a Brahmin merely by saying greetings? Can you forget your position simply because you have turned a Buddhist?" Bayaji was nonplussed. For a moment, he was tempted to knock him down with his box, but realized that he couldn't afford to do so. Besides, now he had come back to his village for good. He was to spend the rest of his days on this soil and would be interred in the same soil. He would not be able to return to Pune or Bombay hereafter. It was not a good policy to incur the hostility of anyone in the village, least so of the Patil, the village headman. So, as Bayaji belonged to Mahar community, according to that age-old custom, they had to greet the upper caste people by saying, "My humble salutations to you, who are my father and mother." This was the practice in those days in that village, expressing their greetings to the upper caste people in this manner. So when Bayaji merely said greetings, these words made Bujaba furious. And as a result of his anger, he scolded Bayaji by saying, "Do you think you can become a Brahmin merely by saying greetings?" So he merely uttered the words saying greetings. This caused Bujaba become furious. And also he scolded him by saying, "Can you forget your position simply because you have turned a Buddhist?" So these were the furious exchanges, furious words by Bujaba Patil to Bayaji. Bayaji was nonplussed. Nonplussed means in a state of confusion. Bayaji was in a state of confusion that he couldn't know what to do or what to say. For a moment, he was tempted to knock him down with his box, but realized he couldn't do it, because after his retirement, he came to village to stay or enjoy his retirement life with the wife, mother and his children. So he couldn't do so, and he wants to enjoy with his family, but not to make enmity with people like Bujaba Patil and so on. So he said in meek tone, "Sir, why spring this on me even before I set foot on the soil of my forefathers? I have to stay here till the end of my life. Why aren't you going back to your job?" asked Bujaba. "No, sir, my service is over. I have turned 60. With this, Bayaji lifted the load from his head a little to place it in position. So he couldn't knock him down. The words which were expressed by Bujaba caused angry to Bayaji, but in angry, Bayaji didn't do anything. Just in a meek tone, in a slow voice, he told him that, "Why spring this on me? Why these words on me even before I set foot on my soil of my forefathers?" So the ancestral village, we may say ancestral village. "I have to stay here till the end of my life," he told. In reply to Bujaba words, he told, "As I came to village, why did you talk like that? I came here to stay till my last breath." And Bujaba asked him, "Aren't you going back to your job?" Bujaba didn't know he was retired. So asked Bujaba, No, sir, my service is over. Bujaba replied, my service is over. And he turned 60. Bayaji turned 60. With this, Bayaji lifted the load from his head a little to place it in position. So, on hearing the retirement news, Bujaba asked him, then you have collected your fund amounts. Bujaba was taking his measure. Yes, sir, Bayaji replied with pride. How much? Bujaba asked greedily. Not much. What can a daily worker earn? Bayaji answered. Why won't you mention the figure, man? Bujaba persisted artfully. Then you have collected your fund amount. Bujaba was taking his measure. So Bujaba asked him, how much you earned? Not much, not a bigger money, not a big haul that he earned from his lifetime earnings. What can a daily worker earn? Simply Bayaji answered. So then Bujaba wanted to know the exact amount that he saved after his retirement. So he wanted to know. Bujaba persisted artfully, cleverly. He wanted to know exact amount that Bayaji had when he reached the village. So Bayaji you have a heavy load on your head. Go to your house first. We will talk at leisure later, Bujaba said in mock sympathy. So, in a pretentious sympathy, Bujaba told, now you have heavy load on your head. First you go to your house. Later we will talk about the things. So, in a mock sympathy, in a pretending way, showing sympathy, he told him to go to his house first. Yes, Bayaji mumbled and walked in the direction of his house. At the moment, Bayaji was proud owner of 2,500 rupees in cash. So it made no difference whether he was an untouchable or a Buddhist. If only one could swindle out. Okay. So Bayaji mumbled, talked to himself, making not bigger sound, walked in the direction of the house, in his house. At the moment, Bayaji was proud owner of 2,500 rupees in cash. And it made no difference he was an untouchable or a Buddhist. He had the proud owner of 2,500 rupees. So he thought whether Bujaba or somebody else, whosoever deceives him, not more than 400 to 500 rupees. In the following lines he expressed. Untouchable or rather Buddhist. Bayaji, 400 or 500 rupees, that was enough. That means if he is deceived, he will be deceived not more than 4,000 or 5,000 rupees. Just he thought to himself. That was enough. With the thought in his mind, Bujaba entered his vada, the big house. Exchanging pleasantries with the people he met on the way, Bayaji reached the public building called Takya in the untouchable settlements. So, walking on his way to his house, he met several people and made pleasantries with them. That means talked to them in a jocular manner. The building, and he reached the Takya, the big building, public building called Takya in untouchable settlement. That means untouchable settlements where the people of untouchable live. The building was named Buddha Vihar. That building was named Buddha Vihar by those who had embraced Buddhism, who took Buddhism. As Bayaji neared Buddha Vihar, the children who were playing with a ball made of rags finished their game and cried out, Baiju Nana is here, Baiju Nana here, and scampered in the direction of Baiju's house. The children who were playing with a ball of rags saw coming of Bayaji in that direction and expressed their joy, Baiju Nana is coming, Baiju Nana is coming. And they ran towards the house of Bayaji. Bayaji's 85-year-old mother quickly scrambled to her feet. She had aged much, but her old worn frame was still sturdy and her teeth were strong enough to break grams. So his mother, who was 85-year-old, was very strong, and her teeth were also strong. Even those teeth can break the grams, pulses. Grams means pulses. Okay, frame. She ran. She sprang to her feet, stood. She could thread a needle without help. That means she can run the needle, she can run the thread through the hole of the needle easily. That means she has the sharp eyes. When she heard of Bayaji's arrival, her heart swelled. Her heart swelled means she became very happy. As Bayaji came in, his wife concealed her joy with the end of her sari and took down the box from his head. So the wife of Bayaji was also very happy, but her happiness was concealed, and she took down the box from the head of Bayaji. His grandchildren clung to him and began to twist the folds of his dhoti. The grandchildren embraced him, clung to him, hold him, or caught him with their hands around him, and twisted the dhoti which he was wearing then. The neighboring children watched the scene in ideal curiosity. The neighbors were watching the things happened with Bayaji. Come, get into the house, children, said Bayaji. His mother walked out with a bent back and told Bayaji to wait outside the door. Bayaji obeyed. So, Bayaji told the children to get in. Suddenly, his mother came out and asked him to stay outside. Bayaji obeyed. The old woman came forward, poured some water over the pieces of bread in her hand, moved it around Bayaji's face and flung it away as an offering. She ran her palms over his cheeks and pressed her fingers on her temples. All 8 fingers gave out a cracking sound. So the old woman came forward, poured some water over the piece of bread in her hand and moved it around Bayaji's face. It is a customary activity by the people in the olden days. Those who come from faraway places will be done in the same way. Okay. Moved it around Bayaji's face. It is a customary activity that was done by his mother. She ran her palms over his cheeks and pressed her fingers on her temples. All 8 fingers gave out a cracking sound. Bayaji's family was doing well. He had 8 children in all, his 6 sons and 2 daughters. The daughters had been married off and had given birth to children. The elder son looked after the fields. The next 2 sons were in government service. The one after them was a school teacher, and the 6th one was still studying. Since they knew that Bayaji was coming home for good, the elder son in service and the 2 daughters were already home to greet him. All of them wondered what their father had got for them from his lifetime earnings. The next day, when Bayaji opened the box, it revealed only some pots and pans, nails and photographs. Okay, the children of Bayaji were 8 in number, 6 sons, 2 daughters. They all of them reached in advance. The eldest one was looking after the fields. The one of them was in government service, a school teacher. All of them reached well in advance before Bayaji reached. All of them were expecting this time Bayaji was coming with a good haul, good saving. So they wanted to see what Bayaji brought for them. The next day when they opened the box, they saw nothing special apart from the things that were there with Bayaji, common things, pots, pans, nails and photographs. Looking at these, elder daughter asked, Nana, how is that? How is it that you haven't brought anything for us? Bayaji was amused that his daughter, though, thought in this childish manner. Even after they had children of their own, he ran his eyes over all his children and said, Look here, children. Look here, children. If I had brought new clothes for you, they would tear. If I had brought an ornament, it would soon wear out. Out of my earnings, I wish you to have something that will last longer. Bayaji paused after these words. So looking at all these things, Bayaji's eldest daughter asked, Nana, didn't you bring anything for us? So thinking for a while, told that his eldest daughter that even after your marriage, even after you have children, you were expecting something from me in a childish manner. So and it told them, if I bring anything, they will wear out, an ornament or sari, they will tear out. So what is the use of bringing such things? So he thought this time, okay. Bayaji paused after these words. His eldest son was godly. He said, neither we nor our wives want anything. Tell us what you would like us to do. So his eldest son asked, we don't want anything. So what are you expecting from us to do? He asked his father, look children, ours is such a large family. Even at meal time we have to eat by turns. Our sit crowded, knocking our knees together. I wish to build a house out of my earnings, and it has to be a storied house. The usual 3-portioned house won't be adequate for us. All were happy with this plan. So Bayaji put his plan forth, expressing his view over constructing the storied house. And the house which they had been living in was not enough for them. When all the members had to sit together to eat, their knees touching one another at the time of eating. So he wanted to build a new storied house with a lot of space in it. So this plan made all of them happy. The plan was finalized and the foundation of the storied house was laid on the auspicious New Year day. So ultimately they finalized the plan for constructing a new storied house, and on the auspicious day which they think the new year day, they laid a foundation stone. Now let us watch.
Welcome. Let us learn about Mr. Bayaji, who was a victim of social issues. There was something really wrong with the state transport bus. It had come up the winding, curved road in the mountain, taking a lifetime effort. The bus was moving very slowly despite the road being downhill. It reached the plain and stopped at the dispensary building. The destination was hardly a mile or two away. When the passengers realized the bus would not move faster, few passengers exclaimed, "God damn it for a bloody nuisance!" The passengers got down the bus upon the request of the conductor to push the bus. The bus gained momentum and the passengers clambered up, jostling one another. "Whose box is this?" brushing away the dust from his body.
"Oh, it's mine. Please lower it down."
The coolie heaved and grunted as he lowered the box, which Bayaji caught with ease. Bayaji had packed his entire household goods in. Life had been spent lifting heavy loads. He had worked very hard, utilizing every chance that came across his way. Bayaji had crossed 60 but was in good health. He had a sturdy frame right from birth. His hard work had given a well-formed shape to his strong body. He paid 15 paise to the coolie and carried the box, which contained pots, pans, and other sundry things, over his.
Yes, yes.
Then Bayaji walked towards his house. He was the proud owner of 2,500 rupees. So it made no difference whether he was an untouchable or a Buddhist. Even if Bhujaba wanted to blackmail or steal money from Bayaji, all he would take is 400 or 500 rupees. It would be enough for him. Bhujaba entered his street, Vada, the big house. Bayaji reached Takya, the public building located in the untouchable settlement. The building was named Buddha Vihar by those who had embraced Buddhism. As Bayaji reached Buddha Vihar, the children who were playing with a ball made of rags stopped their game and cried out in joy, "Bajju Nana is here! Bajju Nana is here!" Bayaji's 85-year-old mother quickly rushed to her son. When she heard of her son's arrival, she moved it around Bayaji's face box, and then it revealed only some pots and pans, nails and photographs. "Nana, why haven't you brought anything for us?"
Look here, children. If I had bought new clothes for you, they'd tear. If I had bought an ornament, it would soon wear out. Out of my earnings, I wish you to have something that will last longer.
His eldest son was godly. He said,
Neither we nor our wives want anything. Tell us what you'd like us to do. Look, children, ours is such a large family. Even at mealtime, we have to eat by turns or sit crowded, knocking our knees together. I wish to build a house out of my earnings, and it has to be a storied house. The usual 3-portioned house won't be adequate for us.